Today, we're taking a hard dive into hard faction wars. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we've been working on hard faction wars. So we are here on my main to talk about some of the stuff I have done on my account to do hard faction wars, some tips for progression, things to think about in general, and just overall a couple of tips that I think will make hard faction wars just a little bit easier for you. So let's dive into it. So first of all, if you are not aware, in a hard faction war stage, certainly you can see what you need to do to get through the next stage. So place 10 stun debuffs for this one, for example. And this is actually a good example of something that Demon Spawn, I don't have any champions that naturally stun in Demon Spawns, at least ones that I'm aware of. So gear is certainly going to play a part in this. And we'll talk about this a little bit later. But if you want to plan out your faction wars, you go to details, and then there's a condition for 3 stars, and you can literally look here and see the list of every single stage, conditions for the 3 stars for every single stage here. Now, couple things to be aware of is it looks like the boss stages are clear in turns. So clear stage 7 in 100 turns, clear stage 14 in 150, and 21 is in 200. That's good because that means you can pretty much just bring your best damage team and try to nuke through it as quickly as possible. Do, however, keep in mind that if you don't get the 2nd star, you cannot get the 3rd star of the whatever the condition is. So you need to not only beat the stage, but you do have to have everybody alive at the end of the fight. Now it says no losses, but it means end with no losses, not have no losses during the fight. You can revive as much as you want to. So that's certainly good to know. It's the same as regular faction wars. So in that case, it's not really different than what we currently have been dealing with faction wars. So that shouldn't be a major surprise for you. So in planning for this, so it is nice to know that if I go look here for Demon Spawn, I'm on stage 5 on this account here. So that's place 10 debuffs, manipulate turn meter 40 times. Some of these are going to be a little easier than others, and we're going to talk about a couple of them quickly. First of all, HP burn is going to require HP burn champion. So that's an easy one. Provoke is certainly going to provide provoke champions, but provoke you can actually do with gear. Same with stun, you can do with gear. Same with poisons, you can do with gear. Now bombs and turn meter, you're certainly not going to be able to do with gear, although you can do a little turn meter with masteries, but not a lot. So, well, actually that's not necessarily true. There's enough masteries in the turn meter manipulation thing. Turn meter manipulation is increasing your own turn meter or decreasing the enemy turn meter. So if you have a couple of turn boosters, this is usually pretty easy to get done. So we'll take a look at a couple of the challenges specifically. So actually we're going to keep onto this screen here because this is going to actually help me talk a little bit about how I would build general teams to tackle any of this content. So HP burn debuffs, for example, you're going to look for 1 or 2 burners in your team and make sure that they are somewhat reliable. Ideally, their ones are place the burns, not ones that have to reactively give you the burns. Drexstar Bloodtin, for example, his passive to place burns when he gets hit is good, but you're not going to want to rely solely on a Drexstar probably for an HP burn floor, just because you don't want to have to make sure that he gets hit. So you're going to be doing some manualing. You're probably going to be A1ing with him a little bit more because A1 can put burnout as well. But for Demon Spawn, for example, there's plenty of other burners out there. For a lot of these other factions, there's enough burners out there where you should be able to get by with more than one. Another thing to consider is debuff spread can get the job done for these as well. So if you have somebody that can do a debuff spread, you can hit burns on one champion and then debuff spread to get it all over the place. In fact, that's actually for this bomb for stage 4. For the bombs here, I used a Lord Shazar, and then I used Carnage to spread the bombs to other champions to make sure that they died from bombs, because while his bombs are good, they were not quite ready to kill the enemy without doing additional damage or getting more bombs on the enemy team. So I, would use him to put the bombs up, and then I would use Carnage to spread additional bombs as well as do additional damage. So you can certainly set things up a little bit better that way. So if we go back, let's go to Demon Spawn here. So honestly, for most of these floors where you need to get a certain number of debuffs out, control is going to be key. And when I mean control, provoke is fine. Stuns and freezes are better. And in fact, freeze is probably going to make a huge comeback because freeze actually reduces the amount of damage the enemy team takes, which can be helpful when you're trying to make sure you get as many debuffs out there as possible. You don't want to be damaging your way through the waves too quickly. So you actually want to not take your best damage dealers or figure out ways to neuter them in some other way, shape, or form so that they are not just absolutely annihilating a wave and then you can't actually get enough debuffs out there. So obviously stuns are going to be very helpful for the stun stage and provokes are going to be very helpful for the provoke stage. But you're going to find that not every faction is going to have a lot of stun champions or a lot of provoke champions. So provoke gear from the Ice Golem, stun gear from the Fire Knight is going to become much more important than it already was. Stun gear already very, very good for Centranos waves. So you should be building somewhere between 4 to 6 really good stun sets. And I say 4 to 6 because sometimes you can have a damage dealing stun champion. Sometimes you can have a stun champion needs high accuracy because they need to lay on other debuffs as well. Sometimes you don't need either of those. And so you just want somebody fast with lots of stuns. You know, there's all kinds of different options for how you might want to build champions in stun gear. But traditionally, you were looking for lots of AoEs. So either 2 different AoEs or at least 1 AoE they can get back to very, very easily. And generally, speed is good on stun sets as well. Provoke is going to be a similar situation. Provoke not quite as good as stun for general use, but provoke sets are very useful in Hydra. So it's nice to have a couple of provoke sets available. And again, you're looking for an AoE champion. You don't even necessarily need to have a good AoE champion, although it helps to have a good champion as well. One of the things I did for the Orc faction, for example, is I took Tila and put her in stun sets. She has 2 different AoEs and she does HP burns. And with the stun set, I'm getting extra control, I'm getting extra burns, and I'm getting a couple different challenges out of the way, along with the fact that she provides some additional healing to keep everybody alive. And she does some damage, but not too much damage, so I can generally control the flow of the fights to make sure I get all this other stuff done. Now, again, HP burns, going to be very champion dependent. The good news is that most of the time they have found these on floors where they either gave away good burner champions at some point in time, like Artek was a free champion for orcs and there's a burn on orcs. There's also a couple of other burn champions in orcs as well, but not a lot of them. Bombs was one of the ones I found was very challenging. Lord Shazar is the only bomb champion I'm aware of in Demon Spawn. That's not true. There's Soul Drinker. There's a couple of other bomb champions in Demon Spawn, actually, so I take that back. So there's a couple of champions you will be able to use for the bombs, but the fact that it is defeat 5 enemies with bombs can make that very difficult because you have to basically get them close to death or have the bombs be so good that they will kill somebody regardless, and then make sure they die from bombs and not from something else. And again, this is where control will continue to help you in Faction Wars Hard. So yeah, Provoke you can do with sets. Provoke actually works fairly well with sets. Stun does fairly well with sets. It's going to be a little RNG with some of those, so if you only have stun sets, you might want 2 stun sets on your champions for doing a stun or a provoke as well. If you have any other way to lay provoke down, keep in mind there are 15 enemies you're going to fight, but you can often land these debuffs a second time. So generally, as long as you can put at least 3 of these out on a single champion in one attack, you probably can cycle through your attacks fast enough to eventually get 10 more provokes, 10 or more stuns. Poisons, a little more difficult because you need 20 of them rather than 10, but at the same time, you can get multiple poisons on the same champions. So Toxic Set's going to be very good. Toxic Set is a 75% chance to land that. And on top of that, Toxic Set can use Sniper. So if you have Sniper on a champion anyway, a Toxic Set could be very good for them. Otherwise, you're just going to need to make sure you get enough poisons out there. You can certainly use some Poison Explosion to queue that up a little bit faster. Plenty of ways to get poison out there, fortunately. Bombs, going to be difficult. They're very champion specific. HP burns a little more champion specific as well. So do be aware of that. Now, the Manipulate Turn Meter, as we mentioned before, that's actually really good for, well, I've got an Allure, for example. Allure is a triple hit A1 that's going to get me 3 to manipulate turn meters every time she takes a turn. That's obviously going to struggle to get to 40 if she's the only one on my team. But there are plenty of other champions that boost turn meter or decrease turn meter. Plus there are masteries that will give you some additional turn meter when you have things like expiring buffs or expiring debuffs. There are other ways to get turn meter outside of just having turn meter based champions, but you are going to want to be aware that you're going to need some turn meter based champions. The good news with this one, again, is that that's another form of control. So it's another thing that's probably good to have on your teams for the most part anyway. And you're going to find that having that turn meter manipulation is going to just make it easier to clear, and you're going to be using it quite a bit, because oftentimes with those champions, you're building them relatively quickly anyway. So just be aware of it. Now, keep in mind too, you can also pause. So if I go into this floor here and I pause the floor, whenever this decides to load, here we go. So if I pause the floor, and you can't see it here, so I will move myself out of the way, we have a place this 10 stun debuffs is right here. So, that's fine. If I decide I want to get past this floor for now, just get the 2 stars, well then, you know what? Just take a big team and nuke your way through it and come back and clean up some of these things later. Don't be afraid to do that on a couple floors, because yes, it's nice to get that champion as soon as possible, but don't kill yourself on getting the new champion. Be the first one to get him. You're going to be sacrificing things such as the quest that hits you for bosses. At some point in time, that's going to slow you down. The quest that requires you to have a rare in a Faction Wars team is also going to slow you down as well. So don't get caught up in the rat race here. There's a lot of rewards that you might miss out on forcing yourself to get through these stages as fast as possible. In fact, if you notice here, I'm only on stage 4 with 6 keys left, because I did have to take a break and do a floor for a boss. Now, that's going to cease to be a problem soon, but it's still going to be a hard floor I'm going to have to do for a boss before I can actually do one of the other floors as well. Before you watch the video any further, did you know you can use the link down below and start a brand new raid account and get 2 amazing epics? You can get Rector Drath. You'll get her right from the start, right after the tutorial. And once at level 15, you will get yourself an Ugo. Rector Drath is an amazing support reviver. She will heal your team. She will give you perfect veils to protect you. She will throw decrease attack up there. And she has a revive, making it very easy to get through in the early game. And then on top of that, Ugo, you get at level 15 again, is a wonderful support champion. She does decreased defense, she does block buffs, she does healing, she does cleansing. She is an absolute great champion. Very helpful early game, very helpful at end game. They are very good champions in Hydra. They are very good champions all over the game. I use them regularly on every account that I work on. They are great champions, and you can get them for free. But not only that, but in the first 72 hours of your account, you can use code Monkey King to get Sun Wukong, or you can use Supreme 6 to get yourself a Supreme Gallic. Both are amazing legendaries. Supreme 6 is a void legendary, so go for Gallic, I suspect. But you know what? Either one of them is absolutely amazing. Start a brand new account today. The steps are very easy. Log out of your Polarium Play account on PC, or simply uninstall Polarium Play. Create a brand new account using the link. Download from there. Run the install. It'll start up Polarium Play, and boom, there's your new account. If you are on Android or iOS, if you've never played before, you can download using my link and get the same benefits as well. It is an absolutely amazing way to start a brand new account, be it a free-to-play, be it a high-spend account, whatever you want to do. It helps support me, it helps get you into the game, and it's a great way to have some fun. Now let's get back to the video. So there's a couple of other ones we're going to deal with as well. Let me put myself back. So other things you're going to be aware of, obviously there's the clear the stage in 100 turns. That's going to be a difficult one for some people. For those things, that's going to be basically a damage challenge. So you're going to want to bring as many nukers as you possibly can. Remember, you still need to stay alive. So that's going to be a concern as well for some of those stages. And, it's going to get harder and harder as you go. Do not receive more than 10 debuffs. Well, you're going to want things like Stone Skin, things like block debuffs are going to be super important. One of the things you're going to struggle with when landing some of these debuffs is there's a lot of champions that are going to be cleansing. Not that cleansing is a big problem, because if they cleanse, you can just reland the debuffs. That's fine. But there's a lot of champions in some of these waves that I've noticed that also have block debuffs. That is not uncommon on at least one, if not two, of the champions you're going to be dealing with. So be aware, strippers are going to get much, much higher in value for Faction Wars as well. So look for champions that can strip buffs off your other champions, off the enemy champions, I should say. Again, the turn meter is going to be great. Freeze is going to be great, even if you don't have a freeze challenge specifically. Freeze is obviously going to be a little more champion specific because there's not gear that can put freeze out directly. You can certainly use Frostbite set or the Frost set, but probably not good to count on to get enough freezes out there. They're just not going to land it at a high enough rate. Another one here, stage 15 here on the Bannerlords. Beat the stage with all champions alive at all times. Now, that is going to be, I don't need revivers, I need healers, and I need defensive champions, and I want to be as tanky as possible. Or I just want to straight nuke my way through this as fast as possible so the enemy doesn't get a turn at all. So again, if you're looking to not die, if you're looking to stay alive, keep in mind what you're going to be dealing with it. Stage 20, keep all your champions HP above 75%. That is, going to be a bit of a challenge. I don't think you have to keep them up 100% of the time. That would be really rough. But maybe you do. I don't know. We'll actually find out when we see that one, how big of a challenge that is. Get an extra turn 5+ times. Well, you're going to need a couple of relentless sets at that point in time, unless there are champions that get extra turns here in this faction. There's a couple. I know Septimus can get an extra turn if he kills somebody, but you're also talking about such tanky champions at stage 19 hard, that's going to be problematic. So what are we looking for when we're building champions for hard faction wars? We are probably looking at around 300 to 350 accuracy, maybe 400 accuracy for debuffers towards the end of hard faction wars. To be fair, I have not seen the numbers yet on what some of the top floors are going to be. I expect them to be in line with some of the hard dungeons and possibly beyond some of the hard dungeons. So that means you're going to have a rule of 250. Now, if you're not familiar, the rule of 200 is a rule for old faction wars where you want your champions at least speed 200 or faster, or at least close to 200, because that's generally a good speed to be going in a lot of the normal content in this game. Well, speed creep lives, and getting yourself to 100 and 250, I should say, is going to be key. Now you look at my Lord Shazar here and you'll see Bront, he's only 230. Well, yes, but you'll notice I haven't glyphed up his speed on a lot of this gear because I just kind of threw the gear on him. So what will happen is, if this becomes a permanent build that I'm going to be using in faction wars and I need the speed, I'm going to have to glyph this up eventually. Now, I generally expect to be able to glyph up 6 spots on a champion. So all 5 pieces right here, not the boots, and then the banner. So that is going to be anywhere from 1 speed, so that could be up to 6 speed minimum, to up to 8 times 6. That is, a big number, 48, I think. And that's a lot of speed. I think you're generally better off assuming you can get about 20 to 24 more speed on any champion once you glyph their gear up. Do be careful though, if you build them with gear that is already glyphed up, you may find that the speed you were hitting and then expecting to get 20 plus more speed may not actually work for you. The other place you can get an additional 12 speed is the Boots Ascensions. Now, I just did the Boots Ascensions to see what I could get, and, I failed. I didn't get speed. I didn't get attack percent. I didn't even get flat attack. That's what I would have liked. But you're going to need to get those extra speed on your speed boots to get your champions to that 250 to beyond 250 speed. Some of the champions were actually losing the speed race at 250 speed in regular floors 21, not regular floors 21, but in hard floors 21. So keep in mind, you are going to want to go faster the higher up you go, but try to build your champions 250-ish speed minimum for this hard faction wars. That will generally give you a speed advantage, and enough of a speed advantage you can start to push them back and maybe lap them a few times. And that's going to make debuffing and that's going to make surviving a lot easier. So there we go. You're going to want speed. You're definitely going to want some healing. You're going to need some revive. You're going to want to make sure that you're protecting your champions to keep them alive. Revival can do that, but actually having the ability to keep them alive is certainly going to be good. You're going to want to be able to cleanse them, and you're going to want to be able to prevent them from getting debuffs in a couple of floors. Hard Faction Wars is no joke. This is true end game content. And my account here that I've got, my main account here, I don't know if I'm going to be able to clear Hard Faction Wars just lickety-split. I'm not going to be able to do it on the first pass. I'm already behind because I've done other content with my keys. I'm already behind because Ogre and I struggled with on the first time. I couldn't get through the second floor because I just was struggling to do damage with the champions I have as well. So it's going to be hard content for most accounts. So don't feel bad if you struggle with a couple floors or you had to come back a couple times and clean up some stars. If you remember when you were first progressing your account in early Faction Wars, you were rarely just getting 3 stars off the bat, running it up, and able to finish it right away when it got released. And honestly, that's going to make this good, long-term, evergreen content, because Faction Wars Hard is going to continue to give you good resources even after you beat it, but it's going to give you good resources and a challenge for something that you are going to have to focus on to make sure that you can beat it at the highest level possible. So I'm enjoying it. Hopefully you're enjoying it. Let me know what you think of Hard Faction Wars. Have you even gotten to Hard Faction Wars? And if you haven't, what's slowing you down in regular Faction Wars? I didn't want to do a video guide on every single floor. I certainly could. And if you've got floors you have specific questions on, please do let me know and I can try to focus on a couple of those. But hopefully this gives you a couple of ideas on general ways you can target Hard Faction Wars. And hopefully it can help you advance in the game. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I make content like this all the time. I love doing breakdowns, I love doing deep dives, and I love helping you guys out because you guys are absolutely amazing, and I want you to have fun playing Raid Shadow Legends. So until the next video, I am Bront CatHerder.